So today we're going to be doing a video discussing the 2026 Senate map, which is going to be the midterm of Donald Trump's non-consecutive second term. And I plan on doing these seasonally, so I'm going to do one for late winter, and then I'll do one for spring, summer, fall, and then next year I'll do one for winter, spring, summer, fall, and then I'll also do a final prediction once we near November of 2026. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with today's video. And before we start filling out this map, what should be an easy pathway for Democrats to be able to win Senate seats, like you see here, Susan Collins up in Maine, Tom Tillis in North Carolina. Maybe you have an outside chance at like Patola running in Alaska, or some highly profile Democratic challengers running against John Husted possibly. Um, they could end up probably flipping North Carolina and Maine, maybe an outside chance at Alaska and Ohio. It is now becoming a little bit harder for them to be able to sort of be able to downgrade Republicans in the Senate, and Republicans might even net gain seats in this upcoming midterm, basically creating a 2016 repeat Senate map only. Maybe there's a potential that Democrats don't get that many House seats in 2026, and Republicans probably net less seats than they did in 2018. We can actually look that up. I don't remember how many seats exactly they netted. They netted 2 seats, so they netted like North Dakota and Indiana, and then gained Missouri and Florida. And this was in a blue wave midterm year around a D+9 election. And this was the 2024 map as well, just for clarification. So it's going to be a little bit harder for Democrats to win, because not only do they have like North Carolina, Maine, Ohio, Alaska, all these other states, they also have to defend territory in Minnesota, Michigan, and New Hampshire, potentially Virginia, and even Georgia, with high-profile challengers and very strong challengers from the Republican side, possibly going to announce their run for Senate. Tina Smith retired in Minnesota. If Tina Smith had ran, that would have been an easy re-election for her. Gary Peters would have held that seat a lot better, but it probably is going to be closer in Michigan now that he is retired. Jeanne Shaheen has also retired as well after the announcement of Chris Sununu reconsidering a potential run for Senate after a poll showed that she was losing to Chris Sununu by around 8 points. And there's also a potential for Mark Warner to retire in Virginia. This could potentially open up the door for Glenn Youngkin to be able to run for the seat. And he could possibly run against Mark Warner, but I highly doubt it. I think Warner probably would win pretty easily if he ran. He would probably win by around maybe like 6 to 9 points if he ran, just because of the environment being a little bit more democratic. I expect this environment, by the way, to be around like the 2020 level, so maybe around D+2 to 3 as of right now, the way I see it. Over in Georgia, there's also potential for Kemp to run there, so all the polls show him beating Ossoff at this current time, I believe. Yeah, almost all the polls, Brian Kemp is leading in so far. John Ossoff beats the rest of his challengers, but it is also early on, so we got to take that into consideration as well. Okay, let's go ahead and fill out today's map. So for the Republican safe seats, we got Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky. Mitch McConnell is retiring now, but this seat's going to easily hold for Republicans. West Virginia, and I know Lindsey Graham's race was somewhat competitive in 2020, but I still expect him to hold on pretty easily. I don't think there's going to be much strong challengers there. Florida is pretty much becoming a Republican stronghold at this point in time. Ashley Moody, if she runs again, I don't know if appointees are allowed to run again. I could be wrong, but let's say she does run again. And even if she doesn't, I think the Republicans are going to hold that seat by around 10 points or higher as of right now. I don't think there's going to be any like real strong challengers that'll run in Florida. I think it's pretty hard at this point for Democrats to really contest the state of Florida, given the trends with Hispanics and also Republican voters moving in the state. A lot of older voters here vote more Republican as well now. So that is going to be a challenge for them. For the Democratic seats, we got Oregon, Illinois, New Jersey. New Jersey has had a lot of closer elections in recent years, but I do think that Cory Booker is going to hold on pretty easily by around double digits or so. I don't think he has really any strong challengers that are considering a run at this point in time. I don't really think any Republican has announced a run for this seat. And I think Cory Booker has decent approval ratings in that state, so he should hold pretty well. I'm guessing maybe by around 12 or 13 points. It's not going to be by a whole lot just because New Jersey is experiencing Republican trends, but I do think he'll hold on by around like lower double digits as of right now, 10 to 15. We'll keep it around that range. Delaware, Massachusetts, Charlie Baker declined to run, so Ed Markey's going to hold on pretty easily there. Rhode Island, and we're also going to put Colorado in this. We're also going to put Colorado in the safety category as well. I'm also going to put Iowa as safe red as well. I don't think that there's going to be really any strong Democratic challengers that could pose a threat to Joni Ernst, so that should hold for her pretty easily. Moving over into the likely R states, we have Ohio, Texas, and Alaska. I think that is it. So over in Ohio, we got John Husted, who is the lieutenant governor or the former lieutenant governor to Mike DeWine. I don't think that there's going to be really too much of a problem with him potentially losing this race because Ohio is experiencing Republican trends throughout the northeastern portion of the state with the working class voters, and the rural areas are pretty much blood red as of right now or close to it. I think that maybe Sherrod Brown, Amy Action, Tim Ryan, they could probably pose a little bit of a threat, but I do think that Husted will be strong enough to hold on by around 7 to 9 points is what I'm going to guess as of right now. In Texas, John Cornyn is up for re-election there. I think he is going to receive a primary challenger. Ken Paxton he's decided maybe he might run for that seat. It is possible he could run for that seat. If he does, he's probably going to hold on easily, even though it's probably going to be less than maybe what Ted Cruz won the state by, but I do expect him to win by around a likely R margin. Same for Cornyn as well, even though Cornyn is unpopular because of his past stances on anti-gun laws and as well as advocating for amnesty on immigration as well. So those are going to be some things that's going to draw him down there. In Alaska, the only reason I have this one that likely are, otherwise it would be safe, is because Mary Patola probably might run for this seat, so I'm going to keep it likely R as of right now. For the Democrats, they have Minnesota, New Mexico, and Virginia. Virginia, again, like I said, the only way this is going to be competitive is if Glenn Youngkin runs as of right now, or if Mark Warner retires. This will be an open seat, and it could get a little bit competitive that way. Virginia has been a lot closer in recent years. It once was going to be a Democrat trending state, and it still well could up in the Nova area. I know Donald Trump doesn't really have good approvals there as far as the firing of government employees because of the establishment being up in places like Nova, and because the DC area is around Virginia. I think that Mark Warner's probably going to hold on by around 6 to 9 points. Maybe Glenn Youngkin could make this competitive in that maybe it could be like lean D or tilt D if he runs. But I think right now I'm going to keep it as likely D. Minnesota, if Tina Smith had ran again, I do think she would have probably won by around double digits or so. But because she is a running and because we don't really know what type of Democratic challengers are running, I'm going to keep this one as likely D. It could be downgraded to lean D at the end of the day, but I don't really know the candidates that are running there. I know Ilhan Omar's expressed interest. Keith Ellison, the Democratic Lieutenant Governor, has announced. Not too many prominent Republican challengers yet, so we're going to have to keep an eye there as of what happens. Over in New Mexico, based off of Hispanic trends alone, it's probably going to be likely D, but Democrats should hold on here. Ben Ray Lujan, I don't think he's going to have too much of a problem holding on there, but it may be a little bit closer than what past margins in New Mexico have looked like. Now, this is where things get a little bit interesting, and I'm going to go ahead and we'll go ahead and get New Hampshire out of the way. I think this one is going to be lean D as of right now. This all depends on if Chris Sununu runs. If Chris Sununu runs, you could probably say this one is like likely R or even maybe lean R at this point in time, because I do think he would easily win this race and he would be the favorite heading into this election. But I do think that as of right now, Scott Brown, if he decides to run, if Chris Sununu declines, he could make it competitive. He could win the seat, but I would have to see polling as to whether he could win or not to decide if I want to put that in the Republican column. But Chris Sununu would easily win that seat. With Jeanne Shaheen declining to run because she was kind of an electoral juggernaut in that state, or was holding the seat pretty easily for Democrats because she was more of a libertarian Democrat, which kind of fit the ideology for a state like New Hampshire because it is more libertarian. It is right-wing in economics, but left-wing on social issues. It is more of like a moderate type of state. We will all have to see if whether Chris Sununu runs or not. And I do think he would beat Chris Pappas by around like 2 or 3 points. So Chris Sununu, if he runs, he should have no problem. Otherwise, Democrats probably are a narrow favorite in that state. Moving over into some lean Republican states, we're going to go ahead and put Maine into that column. And we're going to go ahead and put Georgia into that column as well. Because I feel like in Georgia, Brian Kemp is probably going to run at this point right now. He's hinted vastly that he's going to run for the seat, attacking Jon Ossoff on Twitter. He has met with a lot of Republican senators behind the scenes in the state of Georgia to declare a run. He's got a very popular approval rating as governor in the state. He's not necessarily the greatest on policy, but he is good electability-wise, and he is moderate to some extent, but he is well-liked enough by the conservative base that he wouldn't have a problem with winning this state, as you saw in 2022 where he beat Stacey Abrams by around 8 points or so. And another thing to note about Georgia is that the high propensity voter base in that state is Republicans. Democrats don't always turn out, which could be a problem with turnout issues in Atlanta, especially if Stacey Abrams runs for the governorship again. Democrats just have a hard time turning out their base in the Atlanta area. It is experiencing left-wing trends, and the only reason Donald Trump even won the state in 2024, otherwise I think that state would have went blue, is because he was able to reverse it with South Georgia trends and also doing better in like northern Georgia. Basically turning out the rural areas to the max is what he did, and some of the smaller cities. And he did better in some of these minority counties over here in the southwestern portion of the state. So overall, I do think that Brian Kemp, with those polls taken into consideration, he is the early favorite if he decides to run. If not, I will move this over to tilt to lean D for Jon Ossoff. Over in Maine, this one's going to depend entirely on the generic ballot. I think that Susan Collins, she probably could hold on to the seat, and she probably most likely will, just because Jared Golden and a lot of prominent Democrats have declined to run against her. I know she didn't really have great approval ratings back in 2020, but she was able to ride the Trump wave to victory, the Trump turnout, to about an 8-point victory in 2020, which is her worst performance in the state compared to past elections where she won by a lot. In 2014 and 2008, she won by like 20 to 30 points, I believe. I think over time, Susan Collins' margin of victory is declining. She should win by around like 3 to 5 points at the end of the day right now. I would have to see polling on this race to really consider that Democrats have a shot. But because Susan Collins has decided to run for re-election again, that definitely does help out Republicans' efforts to be able to hold on to the state of Maine. Otherwise, I do think this one would be a likely D state for Democrats. And now we come down to the two swing states. Let's go ahead and start with North Carolina, and then we'll do Michigan last. Now, North Carolina, I'm just going to make this simple. If Roy Cooper runs, Democrats probably do have a good chance of knocking off Tom Tillis. If he doesn't, Tom Tillis probably does hold on very narrowly. I know Tom Tillis does not have the greatest approval ratings in the state, but when you take a look at North Carolina on a national scale, Democrats do have a harder time at turning out the base in the cities to be able to win easily. And the demography there is pretty good for Republicans in that they are doing decent in some of the suburbs there, which is probably not going to be the case in years to come. I think over time the suburbs are going to trend left at some point. And the cities are pretty much getting close to maxed out. They could have a little bit more in like maybe like the Charlotte area and such. Over like in the 1st District of North Carolina, I know Republicans are doing better with the minority base and working class voters there. So that is something to take into consideration there. Overall, though, I don't think Tom Tillis is a good fit for the state, though, but he finds some way to win his elections by a very narrow margin. I think right now, I got to put this one in his column just very narrowly. I think it's going to be under a point that he wins by, probably by like a razor thin margin that he wins by. It's probably going to be like about 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, something like that. He was able to defeat Cal Cunningham, even though he didn't win any of the polls leading up to the election, but that had more to attribute with Cal Cunningham's scandals in 2020. And he also won very narrowly against a incumbent Democrat in 2014 in the red wave midterm by around a point or so, I believe. So he is able to win this race, but he's not that well liked among North Carolina voters. I think Trump has a way better approval rating than he does. So with that being said, I do think that Tom Tillis is going to hold on. But again, if Cooper runs, this one is probably going to be tilty to start with, just because I think Cooper would be an early favor in the polls. So that's that. And now we come down to Michigan. Now, the big key factor in a state like Michigan is that Pete Buttigieg has declined to run for the Senate seat and has aspirations of potentially running for president in 2028. I'm not sure who the Democrats are that are running in this seat. I haven't really taken a look at it. Mallory McMorrow, she has made a big name for herself speaking at the DNC and on LGBTQ issues. I don't know if she's necessarily a strong challenger, but she's probably one of the more high-profile challengers in that race. I don't really think Dana Nessel would be that strong. Haley Stevens, Abdul, Sarah Anthony. Kristen McDonald would probably be a strong challenger for Democrats, so if she probably runs, she probably could do well there. For Republicans, the only one that's really announced that he's going to run, or that the announcement is pending to run, is Mike Rogers. And I think Mike Rogers is going to run for this seat at the end of the day. Tudor Dixon has also expressed interest, but I do not think she is able to win a statewide race in Michigan. And I probably would put that as lean D or likely D if she ended up running. Kevin Rickey is also announced to run. He's a businessman, ran for governor in 2022. I think he could do pretty well as far as financing goes. He probably would be an all right challenger there. John James could also be a potential to run for the seat, but he hasn't really made any indications, at least yet. Bill Huizenga is another one to watch out for. I don't see any other challengers that would really run. I don't think Shooty's going to run. Snyder, I don't think any of these people are going to really run. Peter Meyer would be a wreck if he ran. Ronnie McDaniel, that'd be disastrous. Mike Cox, I think he's going to run for governor. So, overall, I think it's probably going to be Mike Rogers as of right now, but Tudor Dixon is winning some of those polls. If she decided to run and she won that primary, it probably is going to be lean D to start off with, but right now I'm going to keep it as Tilt D. Just because I'm really not impressed with the Democratic lineup, besides maybe like a few candidates that have announced or are exploring interest in running for that seat. So there we go. That is my final margin right now. 54 for Republicans to Democrats 46. Republicans gain one seat out of Georgia. Potentially, Republicans could gain Michigan or New Hampshire. Democrats could gain North Carolina or Maine. We are going to have to wait and see. Maybe Alaska becomes competitive if Peltola runs. Maybe Ohio somehow gets competitive. Maybe Minnesota or Virginia get competitive out of nowhere. I doubt it. But that's the map that I have for you guys today. I will update this again sometime in spring by around April or May or so. So keep an eye out for the next video. But with that being said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Please like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new or if you like today's video. Again, comments or questions or like any thoughts you have, just put it down in the comment section. Hit the bell for notifications, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, everyone, and have a great day.